the moment everyone is waiting for Armageddon bids between Hikaru and Magnus. You guys, turn your boards. Let's see it. Magnus. Oh, 15 minutes. I guess that means you win it. 9 minutes, 40 seconds was your reaction, Hikaru.
Well, it's funny because I actually thought about bidding 15 minutes just to get white in between these two games. But yeah, it's what it is. You just play the game.
Can you reveal your tactics with bidding 15 minutes, Magnus?
Yeah, I wanted to play white, but I thought he would be a little bit lower. So I mean, knowing that I could have bid 9.39 and won, not so happy with that, but that's okay.
Well, you guys go prepare. Thank you for placing your bids here. Back to you.
Is losing as we tune in because of the weak dark squares around his king. You see the board on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. A rook trade just happened, and Hikaru, his dark squares, he doesn't have a Fianchetto bishop over there. The bishop for white just going one square forward in the diagonal. I think the black king's just getting checkmated.
Yeah, and Hikaru, he did such a good job on the clock, but unfortunately one slip just as we joined the game. And there we go, Robert, you mentioned it, the white bishop landing on e5, and black's knight simply stuck. It cannot cover enough squares. G7 is a potential checkmate square, the corner square on h8, all the dark squares potential landing spots for the white queen, and it's sneaking in. No way to stop it now. How is he going to try and cling on? He drops the knight all the way back, but there we go, the queen's coming in. Ooh, he's allowing some checks.
At the very least, white can grab the a7 pawn because the bishop on e5 dominates the knight. There are no moves without giving it a check. And if white can force the queens and the knight off the board, it's a winning king and pawn endgame. But be careful in positions like this because just trading the queens, if those disappeared, maybe black would have some chances because white doesn't have the easiest path towards a passed pawn.
Still some work to do.
He doesn't trade off immediately, and my question was going to be if he did take bishop takes knight, were there some threats of perhaps landing into a perpetual? But Magnus doesn't even want to calculate that. That bishop on e5 is dominating. The pawn on f3 dominates that knight on f6, and it's Magnus's pieces that are playing all over. He's up a pawn, but at some point you have to start making progress. He sidesteps any checks, and now he's threatening to grab that knight and perhaps go into a winning king-pawn endgame.
Definitely. He wants to transition. He wants to transform his advantage, make things easier, simplify the equation. Also, that white king can start walking its way forward now on the dark squares. Black is just really stuck. Hikaru needs to avoid this trade, bishop for knight. But if he drops his knight back, still no threats, nothing to do. He's stuck. And look at the clock suddenly, under 20 seconds. Increment is still a distant dream. It only kicks in at move 60. It's physically going to be impossible, surely. 14 seconds left.
And here's the big question, and you could see that Magnus is thinking about, can I take this knight on f6? And if the queen takes out, can I then put my queen on e5 with check and trade queens? Now, sometimes you try to liquidate too soon, and it's actually the black king that will march quickly up the board and start stealing some of white's pawns. So it's a big moment here for Magnus Carlsen. I do not think he should take the knight and trade queens. That could easily backfire as black will shut down the protection of that pawn and go and win it.
Moral, ethical decision here. Do you just try and play quick moves, flag the opponent, or do you actually slow down and try to find objectively the best moves? Because 12 seconds for Nakamura, physically so tough. And queen's off the board now.
Queen's off the board. Hikaru needs only a draw somehow, but he needs a big miracle right now to convert this into a draw. At least he can feel safe that he's not getting checkmated anytime soon.
But he's going to lose his rook pawn. That's on a dark square. Only one side is a dark square bishop. And here it goes. Magnus breaks that little pawn chain there, steals the rook pawn. So now he'll have passed pawns on opposite sides of the board. That's going to be too much for the black's pieces to deal with.
And 4 seconds for Hikaru. He has to make a move. Whoa.
Magnus is playing surprisingly slowly, but Hikaru...
See, look at that speed.
He's trying to pre-move, but he's running out of time.
There's no mouse.
There's no mouse, and okay, Hikaru resigns.
Handshakes, and Magnus Carlsen does it, takes it.